So I watched Wish and it was mid. It was a middling movie. That's the closest you're getting to a full review from me, by the way. Once again, I have thoughts about the villain of an animated movie, so I'm going to write them all down before launching them onto YouTube. Let's hope this doesn't become a trend. King Magnifico was causing Twitter discourse before the movie even came out. Some people weren't entirely sure of why he was the villain because of his views on wishes. The movie actually coming out didn't make it better. And the thing about Magnifico is, he could have been great, and I want to like him, but every time I think about him, little details about the movie bother me. In his presentation, in his motivation, and in the effect he has on the plot. You see, unlike some people who take issue with Magnifico's characterization, I have no problem with him being the villain. All the setup is there. His paranoia, his controlling nature, and his ego. Those are all apparent from either his very first appearance or even before that. So it says something that his turn to pure evil still feels like it came out of nowhere. There is setup for him becoming a villain, but not the kind of villain the movie wants and not at the speed at which he becomes one. King Magnifico was marketed as a return to Disney's roots with classic evil villains we know are villains from the get-go. Sure, he's kind of a twist villain to the characters in the story, but that's fine. But that leads to the first detail that I think gets in the way of the whole thing. His backstory. It's like the movie decided to jump ahead of the inevitable live-action villain-centric remake and construct his sympathetic backstory now. You see, Magnifico is motivated by past tragedy and the deaths of his family, which caused him to learn magic and start his own kingdom that he could protect with his own power. And the biggest problem with this backstory is that I don't think it's a lie. At no point does the movie try to undermine this idea. Even when the star first comes down and he believes he's threatened, his paranoia clearly comes from the fear of history repeating itself. The movie only happens because he and Asha make a connection over the pain of loss motivating their desire to help people, which leads to him deciding to show her the wishes, which he evidently very rarely lets anyone see. This is never touched upon again. It actually feels like an attempt to blend a sympathetic backstory, well-intentioned type villain with an evil hammy villain, but that backstory goes completely unaddressed. No one says it's a lie, no one really acknowledges the idea he's let his negative traits corrupt him beyond one line from his wife in a song, and the movie introduces a plot device that makes the idea of appealing to his better motivations to get him to stop impossible. So it's all just left floating there. But that leads to another problem, and that's the question of, why is he the villain? You see, one thing that keeps coming to mind about the conflict to me is honesty. Magnifico is almost completely honest about everything. I mean, think about this. He didn't conquer this kingdom. He didn't usurp it. He didn't really try to deceive anyone. He learned magic in response to the tragedy of his past, then started Rosas with his wife, welcoming everyone into what basically became a magic utopia they can live in for free without paying rent.
I let you live it for free and I don't even charge you rent.
I mean, before the movie begins, the villain basically created a utopia where anyone from anywhere can come and live that at least appears to be completely free of any hardship. Now, it isn't actually perfect. He's very insistent on being the only one with magic, but frankly, that's still a better deal than most other places. And he's very upfront about how everything works. He doesn't take the wishes in secret. It's a condition that's probably why a lot of people showed up. He takes them, will grant some, but will keep the rest. Like, the main character sings about it 10 minutes before she acts surprised that that's how it works. And frankly, anyone who can count how many wishes he has granted should be perfectly aware of the rate at which they are granted. So why the surprise? The kingdom was not started yesterday. Asha seems to have been born in it. Are the people there stupid or something? I can see why some people feel off about the fact that Asha's song is about needing something more than, and I quote, this. And then in response, magic that seems to be more powerful than the king literally drops from the sky. I can see why they feel off about it, but I can also tell what the movie is trying to go for with Asha. Now here's the thing. Magnifico can still be the bad guy in all of this. The movie more than sets up his character flaws and the breadcrumbs for what's really wrong with the system. Besides his desire for absolute security as the head of the kingdom, but quite frankly, I'll allow that. It probably just makes him one of the most accurate Disney kings ever. Now that I think about it, kings in Disney usually trend towards being the good guy. He's keeping the wishes so people do not have to deal with the problem of failure and the impossibility of granting some of them. But between Simon and the people we do see give him their wishes, we can tell that this isn't exactly the best thing for them. Further emphasized by when Asha's grandfather gets his wish back and it's like he's become a more whole person. Everyone may think taking the wishes is protecting them, but it's clearly taking something subtle away. So subtle that outside of the explicit examples we're shown, everything seems fine. So subtle that it isn't even the reason for Asha's initial rebellion. The movie doesn't play into this idea for character motivations. By the time it becomes apparent to the characters that they should be getting their wishes back because it's clearly an integral part of their souls, dark magic has already driven Magnifico to start consuming the wishes. So it's no longer really a question of the harm not having your wish caused, and more about stopping this guy from actively destroying all of them. And I will be getting back to the dark magic. When I ask, why is he keeping the wishes, there are three possibilities that occur to me. What Magnifico tells us is his reason, i.e. protecting them, which might have been true, especially because when he turns evil, he comments that he was wasting his time protecting them instead of, eating them, which suggests that he did at least believe that that was his motivation at the beginning. There's also the possibility that he just likes collecting them like figurines for some reason. And finally, that he's scared of the idea that people's wishes will lead to things that undermine his power. That other people's desires could endanger his security. This is definitely at least a subconscious motivation, though it's dropped in favor of his new motivation of eating them. It really feels like Magnifico should be gaining something selfish from keeping the wishes from the beginning of the movie. My initial idea was that having other people's wishes gives him more magic power, like their hopes and dreams make him stronger. This would better justify the Mickey Mouse ending of them singing their way to freedom and tie into the We Are All Stars theme. Wow, I've been on anime Twitter so much, I'm calling actual Disney products Mickey Mouse. Gotta be honest, I wasn't a fan of the ending. I mean, I get what it means thematically, and if you liked it, that's fine. I just would have done something different. I also like the suggestion by the YouTube channel, whose name I will probably butcher, Patrick Sambiazzi presents Torn Apart, where Magnifico actually keeps the wishes because granting them keeps him relevant and noticeable in what's essentially a utopia. I like this idea because it plays on his ego and paranoia, as he wouldn't want his content citizens to think he's irrelevant, and this is something he can do without undermining his perfect kingdom by creating some sort of false suffering for everyone to turn to him about.
I'd give the clothes off Benito's back if you really needed that.
When it comes down to it, Asha doesn't really learn anything she didn't already know, apart from maybe the metric at which he judges which wishes are too dangerous to grant, specifically because of how they're worded. Her grandfather wants to inspire, but the question is, inspire what? We even see something similar when Simon gets his wish granted, and the word loyal makes it incredibly clear that granting his wish basically mind controls him into working for Magnifico. So the real point of contention between the characters is that Asha now thinks Magnifico shouldn't keep wishes he's not going to grant, which could be an interesting conflict if Magnifico didn't touch the devil book, which we will get to, don't you worry. The movie makes it very clear Magnifico is very controlling, not even letting anyone else use magic. He wants to be the only one with the most power because of his ego, but also because of his paranoia. And everyone in the country knows this. Well, they don't know about the paranoia. The ego was probably noticed though. But we should talk about the people in the country, because I think that's a grave Magnifico dug for himself. It's a kingdom he started on the premise of granting wishes, full of people whose wishes he's taking on, built on magic only he can do. Is it any surprise they are the kind of people who would be very demanding of his abilities? When Asha talks to him about granting her grandfather's wish, I get the frustration he feels about people asking him to grant favors with his magic, but it's a system he propagates. He really shouldn't be doing so if that's gonna bother him. Then again, when I describe them like that, I can very much believe there are people here who shouldn't have their wishes granted or returned to them. By taking people's wishes with a chance of granting them, Magnifico accidentally coddled his kingdom into being full of the exact kind of demanding people he's annoyed with. He wants to keep their dreams from dying, but removing those wishes in a frozen state means they don't mature. I don't think any of this is bad writing, by the way. I think it's genuinely an interesting plot point that I hope the writers made intentionally. Also, I am not impressed with Sabino. Instead of trying to inspire people himself, he sailed to this island and gave his wish up in the hopes that it would happen magically? Or did he just fail to inspire people so many times that he decided to come here? Or was he so poor that he had to come here to survive and giving up his wish was just the price he had to pay? Wait, that last one has potential. Honestly, so does the middle one. I guess we should actually talk about the book. All the ingredients to portray Magnifico's fall are there, but they aren't enough to carry him in villainy after what essentially seems to be at least like 2 decades of being at least appearing benevolent king over a kingdom that he really has complete control over. The problem is time. Over the course of like a day, Magnifico goes from being in complete control to literally trying to chain everyone down. Like, I joked about a live-action villain-centric remake, but the story of Magnifico going from the altruistic wish-granting leader who wants to protect wishes his wife married to the ego-driven, power-hungry madman at the end of the movie sounds far more interesting than what we got. To me specifically, I don't think the target audience would have liked it. Also, this is not me preemptively approving of the live-action remake of this movie they'll probably announce in 2035. The idea of Magnifico suddenly being a villain feels tacked on. Sure, like I said, he has all the traits that would eventually lead to it, but having those flaws don't immediately erase everything else about his character. And so we have the book. A special evil book that once used makes the wielder immediately become an irredeemable villain that cannot be saved. It's so stupid. Especially because it was pointless. When I first watched the movie, I thought he used the dark magic to find Asha, but no. Simon told him. The only thing the book did was help him make a staff that he didn't need to make until after he opened it. I think moving him taking the book to after he sees Star and becomes even more fearful of this power that isn't his own would have fixed this idea somewhat. Magnifico is mostly entertaining as a villain, but the path taken to get him to that point is just littered with all these little details that make me ask, did you want a more complex villain, Disney? But then you decided to give him a magic book to fast track him because the movie is like 90 minutes long? It's a problem that arises from the fact that the villain that the hero must defeat is the creator and ruler of the happy kingdom everyone lives in with literally no outcasts. King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph works because the flaws of his reign purposely made Vanellope a victim. The only real suffering the people of Magnifico's kingdom have is something that not even Magnifico realizes is making them suffer. The worst things Magnifico does pre-book is not like Asha disagreeing with him and being frustrated that even after being told about the possible danger, the people were still only concerned with wish granting. Both of those are understandable tropes that could lead to a descent into villainy, but they don't actually make him evil, yet. And the book makes me question all his further actions because at that point I can't tell how much I should be holding the guy I saw at the beginning of the movie accountable for the actions that get him trapped in the mirror in the dungeons. Then again, I suppose he does deserve some culpability for opening the book in the first place, but once again, that just makes me question if it's realistic he'd open it so quickly. Is he that paranoid? If he is, why did he show Asha the wishes? I'm kind of convinced that without the book, a compromise could have been reached. Like, someone saw a complex story where 2 characters have ideological disagreements but aren't wholly right or wrong, and hit the become blatantly evil button on one of them. Also, while I'm at it, I think the movie should have ended with no magic. Making Asha a fairy godmother seems counterproductive when the whole kingdom is like a cautionary tale about relying on magic to grant wishes. She doesn't give the girl who wishes to fly the power to fly. She introduces her to Peter Pan, who wishes to build a flying machine so they can walk towards it themselves. More of that, please. Though if I'm being completely honest, I am unclear at what point in her character arc Asha changed from the kind of person who would just use magic to give the girl the power to fly immediately. Then again, I don't think Disney's gonna make a movie denouncing the use of magic. I mean, they reference Cinderella in this. Then again, Cinderella's story isn't so simple as to say magic granted her happiness. Should I analyze Disney's Cinderella? If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my word vomit about my thoughts about King Magnifico. But those are just my thoughts. Tell me what you thought of King Magnifico and this video down below. And while you're at it, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you and good day.